but we have a great lineup of speakers. Brady, that was a great session. Learned a lot about PunchOut2Go, expert on the PunchOut business, founder and CEO of PunchOut2Go. And we have Sachin, who's the Director of Technology Partnerships at BigCommerce, over 60,000 customers, yep, and over 3,500 enterprise customers.
Enterprise customers, that's right.
That's awesome. And Sachin manages the technology partnerships. You've met both of them. And we have Spenser. Spenser, thanks so much for joining us. It's great to have you in the panel. Spenser has a lot of background on B2C as well. She specializes in B2C, and she also worked at Amazon. She's the digital marketing manager at the Oneida Group. Maybe I'll just ask Spenser if you can introduce yourself to the crowd and tell us a little bit about what you do. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Spenser Staschiak. I'm the digital marketing manager for the Oneida Group. Oneida produces flatware and glassware in the US. So we are more of a manufacturing side of the business. Right now I manage our website and I do our digital marketing for those channels as well as manage our Amazon marketplaces.
Awesome. Cool. How about we just, I want to make sure the panel is interactive. So if you have any questions and if you want to ask during the panel, please feel free to do so. But I just want to start off with Amazon. We talked a lot about Amazon today, but what can distributors do to handle Amazon, right? So what do you think of Amazon as such? What can distributors do? So yeah, Brady?
Focus on the relationships, right? Those matter, they really do, right? You're gonna be able to provide a much better relationship than Amazon or any other marketplace would ever be able to do. We come across this not only in the distribution space where you guys are working in, but in the research space as well, where you have the Thermos and such that are big, massive marketplaces. So I would say focus on the relationships, provide an enriched data experience, right? Look at automating and creating more synergies with those customers that you have, because again, automation and integration with them is a very sticky place to be. And oh, by the way, if you automate with them, you're going to lower your cost to serve them by drastic amounts. So rather than giving Amazon 10% or whatever they're going to hit you for, what if you could offer 10% off to your customer directly? So a lot of things to think about, but focus on those relationships.
Yeah, I think what I said during my presentation was if you're not selling on Amazon, somebody else is. And I hear a lot about Amazon being the frenemy, right? So you can't ignore them. You can't let them take over your business either. And very likely, if you're selling something that's complex product that requires a lot of configuration, that requires a lot of intimate knowledge about the product and expertise about the product, they're likely not going to touch that because that's not their goal, right? What I hear a lot about how do you kind of keep Amazon close is identifying certain products, either those are accessories or complementing products, that's selling them on Amazon. Amazon is an amazing marketplace for understanding buying behavior, understanding what people are looking at, who's buying, and those type of things. So you can't ignore, but if there are products that you have that you can also sell on Amazon, to just be close to Amazon, as close as you can be, right? It also tells you if Amazon is moving in the direction or not. So,
awesome.
Yeah, just stay close to your enemy.
At Oneida, we've had really great success actually doing a dual model of selling on Amazon. So we actually leverage Vendor Central and Seller Central. Seller Central really helps us kind of maintain our pricing. Before going straight through Vendor Central, we'd get items that are quote unquote crapped out, where the price would get driven down and we wouldn't be able to sell it on any e-commerce channel. So leveraging the Seller Central model has really worked well in our channel.
Awesome. And Spenser, just a quick question on your day-to-day job, right? So when we were chatting, you had mentioned about, hey, you do a lot of work with Amazon, you work with them closely, is that right?
Yeah, and that's another thing that can really change your partnership. Having that relationship with your vendor manager can completely change the type of program you get. But leveraging FBA, you might want to go on a by item basis, because we have some products that are super large, very heavy. It doesn't work in FBA, but we have small, light items like flatware. It works great on FBA, so it really is on an item by item basis.
Okay, awesome. I was actually chatting with a distributor or a customer in Atlanta, And this is what she was telling me. She was attending a conference and they were having a session on Amazon. And hey, it's great to sell on Amazon. I think maybe it's a question for you, Sachin. If you're not selling on Amazon, somebody else is. But then the problem is after I sell on Amazon, Amazon has all my data and they start taking my data and start selling with a white label or a different brand or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So how do you handle with that? And should you really sell on Amazon on that perspective?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is that you can't obviously sell everything on Amazon because then you lose that personal relationship. We have many customers that come to our platform after they have been doing millions of dollars, and this is more on the B2C side. They've been doing millions of dollars on through channels, right? Either through Amazon or eBay. And you'll be surprised how many of them are a couple of $1 million revenue, but they have either no website, no e-commerce of their own, or something that doesn't really transact much, right? So their own store might be less than 10% of their total volume. The reason they start looking at e-commerce platforms is because, yes, Amazon is a great marketplace and it's getting them the biggest audience you can ever get, but things can change, right? Amazon can change some requirement. Amazon can get into that market, into kind of what you're selling. If you're selling batteries, and now Amazon is selling batteries, it can really hurt your business. So having your own online store reduces that risk, right? That way you're not going to lose your business. So I think the ultimate goal is to, even if you have products that you're selling on Amazon and you have customers that are buying those products through Amazon, the ultimate goal is to bring them back to your store, because that's when you're going to maintain lifelong relationship with those customers. Because we all know when we buy on Amazon, I don't think we ever look at who's selling it, right? We're looking at reviews, we're looking at if it's Prime, we're looking at if it's what the price is, and those are the criteria. We don't really care about where who's actually fulfilling that product.
Awesome. Brady, you want to add anything to that, or?
I'm just a very loyal guy. So I'm all about the relationship. You just mentioned relationship, but I do get that, so a lot of our customers are larger customers, right? We have smaller customers as well. A lot of our customers do not want to put their data on Amazon for the obvious reasons. I do, I'm a firm believer of syndicating your products, right, to wherever you can, right? I'll go back to when I was 7 again. We used to use GoDataFeed. Anybody ever heard of GoDataFeed? Right, it populates product data to all these different marketplaces and all that great stuff. So syndication of products is very good, but I think you hit on some pretty important ones of maybe just putting subsets of products or particular products that you don't want to sell on the website. So I think it's great.
Maybe I also want to ask the audience, right? Anybody has a different perspective on this in terms of, hey, I don't want to sell on Amazon, and anybody's not selling on Amazon here? Anybody has a different perspective?
And just a reminder, we have 2 microphones. If you just raise your hand, wait for us to get to you so we can hear your response on the camera. Or you could just not say anything. Here we go.
Yeah.
Just kind of from like the multi-channel approach. I know we talk a lot about Amazon, but is that kind of the same feel for, if it's not Amazon, it's somebody else, it's Jet, it's Google, it's the next big thing. Is that something that you kind of consider as options, or is it sort of the same approach?
I think it's outside of Amazon, Jet, and eBay, you're probably talking more about niche markets. Either those are regional or they are specific type of vertical that you're targeting. Oftentimes, the businesses that go into the omni-channel strategy, they usually start with the bigger players and then expand into. Like Brady said, once you're going omni-channel, you wanna make your product available in as many marketplaces as you can, because there are certainly some customers that prefer to shop in a certain market, right? So, but the integration into each marketplace, just like PunchOut, right? Each marketplace integration is very different, right? When you list product on eBay versus Amazon, the way brand, category, and the specific attributes that those marketplaces need is unique to that marketplace. So there is a good level of effort that goes into being able to sell in all the marketplaces. So you certainly want to be mindful of which marketplace truly is going to drive the right ROI for you. But yeah, it's part of, I think, everybody's omni-channel strategy to say, let's start with Amazon, let's see what kind of response we're getting, does Jet make sense for us, and then go from there.
Yeah, one more thing I want to add to what Sachin said is Walmart as a channel is definitely very encouraging as well. They're investing a lot on their marketplace, and I think it's yielding really great results. And definitely admire Walmart as a company. Anybody here in the audience selling on Walmart? Yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah, so I'm just to comment on Walmart. I'm curious to see. I know Walmart and Amazon. You know, there's been a lot of news recently around them competing, and I read that Walmart has this biggest advantage over Amazon, that they have stores, right?
That's right,
And the local presence is a huge advantage. I don't know exactly how they're going to take benefit from that advantage. But certainly we're seeing, I actually recently downloaded the Walmart app, and I just price compared on Amazon and Walmart, and the thing I was buying was actually cheaper on Walmart, and I went through all the way through the checkout and backed out because there was no Prime-like capability, and I actually paid a couple of dollars more to make that transaction back on Amazon, right? So I think certainly Amazon has led the way, and going back to customer service that they've provided. If Walmart can catch up to that, I think it'll become a very competitive marketplace.
Awesome. And since this is an e-commerce growth panel, right? So another question is, I think in one of the sessions we also talked about manufacturers trying to go direct with the consumers. So how is e-commerce really helping distributors? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a completely different channel, right? It's
Sure.
a completely different initiative. There's completely different logistics around one-offs versus case pallets and such that you sell in many cases to B2B. I think I'm gonna go ahead and turn to you, Sachin, and let you answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a use case. Natori is a high-end luxury sleepwear brand, and I remember hearing their story about for the longest time they struggled and feared going direct to consumer because they were afraid that there will be a backlash from their distribution network. They sold into the Neiman Marcus and some of the high-end stores. So they were concerned that if consumers can buy it online, why would they go to these big stores? So the strategy they took was to launch a new sub-brand and identified a few products that were only exclusively available online. And to their surprise, they actually found that the distribution network welcomed that because it helped raise brand awareness for Natori. So more people were learning about the brand, more people wanted that product, and when they couldn't find that product online, they went to the store and bought it. So I think it's, direct to consumer is really interesting we definitely see a lot of interest from manufacturers going there because of the appeal that you can build that direct relationship. But I think everybody is looking at it, again, similar to selling on marketplaces, is what product of their product line makes sense to go direct to consumer? Are there new products that they're not selling through their distributors that makes more sense to be sold directly to end users?
Yeah, and as a manufacturer, we've really been using direct-to-consumer channels, specifically our .com and Amazon, to test new products before we sell it into a major retailer or distributor. We definitely don't want to reduce the reliance on distributors or retailers, but we really use this as a tool to test and provide additional data to those customers and to help our sales team sell an additional product.
Yeah, you want to answer?
I want to talk about the other side, right? So we're
Sure.
seeing a lot of B2C companies get into B2B,
Yes.
right? So we're working with some of the largest furniture, consumer-oriented online shops, right? Or largest hardware companies that have brick and mortar in every city. And there's big push for more B2B, right? So I'm not hearing many of our B2B customers going into B2C. I'm hearing more of B2C customers getting into B2B.
I would echo that. I think there is, we have out of this, 60,000 customers on our platform, certainly focus more on the high growth businesses that have been growing exponentially on our platform. The next phase of growth for these businesses, and a lot of these businesses that are online only, the next phase of growth can either be let's open brick and mortar stores, or let's go B2B, right? So we are seeing this interesting trend around B2C customers that have been selling on our platform for very long are asking about, can we do B2B on the same platform, and how do we do that? What are some of the things? So I think while D2C maybe manufacturers going D2C might be losing some portion of the business for the distributors, I think there is a wave of potential customers coming that are looking to learn how to distribute in a wholesale manner, right? And while you're also selling to consumers.
No, that's a very interesting thought, right? Yeah.
I don't know if
I think there's a question there.
Dan's team over here has a comment.
Mike, can you get the mic? Sorry.
There's a lot of discussion about augmented reality, its injection into e-commerce and what its place is going to be. What do you project, what do you think about augmented reality in the world of e-commerce?
Do you have any experience?
We actually, our food service brand launched a augmented reality app called Plate Envy, which allowed customers to take a small quiz outlining kind of their dream design for their restaurant. And then it resulted into a sampling. So they would get to see what the product looked like on a table, and then they would be able to order a sample from that. We saw, I think it depends on the product. We had a really hard time because we have very small detailed flatware. So where the technology is at today, it did not render, I think, the true picture of what the product looks like.
Yeah, I don't have business experience on that topic. I have personal experience. We were shopping for a dining table set, and I think it was Wayfair that we were looking at, and it was really cool experience that you could look at a product and just point to our dining room, and you could see how that would look. But I think, after the first few seconds of wowness, the product, it just didn't make sense. It didn't really help us buy that product, because I don't think the technology and some of it, I think the product information might not be rich enough just yet for augmented reality. I mean, I'm certainly seeing that there's a higher need of a PIM when businesses are thinking about voice, because voice commerce creates yet another pressure on more attributes and more richness, because the way we search is very different than the way we speak and ask questions, right? So I think there may be a lag in terms of, is the product data rich enough to really create that augmented reality experience? One thing that complements that comment is we are seeing huge growth in not brick and mortar, but experiential stores, right? So we have seen businesses that are digitally native. They don't have any brick and mortar stores, but they're opening just a location where people can go and experience what that product looks like. I know Nike and Adidas and some of the shoe companies are doing that, but Yeti Coolers, which is based out of Austin, they have this amazing store with water cooler trucks parked outside and water coolers in there, and nobody's buying anything. You just go there to kind of experience what that Yeti experience is like. So.
No, definitely, and I also want to add a couple of thoughts to that, right? So for B2B distributors here in the room, for sure, this augmented reality or even virtual reality is a good thing to try. Hey, you may not really have immediate returns on it, or it's hard to measure the ROI, but it makes you look good,
yeah.
Right?
It is cutting edge.
Absolutely, yeah, and it makes you stand out. And you never know, in terms of investing on research on things like this, that'll actually have a big impact on your business in the long term. On the short term, yeah, like Sachin mentioned, maybe the technology is still evolving and it's not there yet, yeah. Another question I want to ask is on the branding, right? So, what can B2B distributors or any e-commerce companies in general do in terms of branding to kind of stand out? Yeah.
I see it as like going into a restaurant, right? When you're approaching any one of your customers, here's all the ways that we make it easy for your end users to purchase from us, right? Here's the systems and technologies that we have in place to create more efficiency around getting the product out to you, right? I think about it in that regard, is that, it's kind of like going back to when I was 7, when we did our first websites, right? Here's my business card, my website, here you go. But now it's expanded, right? So now you get to, and companies do this all the time, they kind of create these presentations of all the various ways in which we can do business with you, right, as a seller, right? And I think that's what you're alluding to, right?
Absolutely. You want to add something to that? or yeah. Another thing, absolutely, yeah, that's a good one, Brady. Another thing I also want to add is, in terms of the audience in this room, I think we are in a very interesting space because, hey, the competition is not really doing a lot of work online yet, and the product you're selling is kind of niche. And whenever you do something, which is in a niche space, or I think, I don't know if it was you, Sachin, you kind of mentioned that, hey, the products sometimes, the B2B distributors sell are complex. When it's complex, that means it's niche. And when you have the right kind of content there, it really helps you in your branding or even inbound leads and inbound customers, right?
Yeah, I think, again, importance of brand awareness might have a higher priority on the B2C side. One thing I was talking to one of our customers that's here is around, the way I think about branding in B2B is that personalized experience, right? So if you have, if 80% of your revenue is being driven by 15 accounts, what if when each of those accounts members logged into your e-commerce store, what if there was their logo? It was co-branded with your logo and their logo, so they felt maybe there was some information and a thank you for being a customer, or you've placed X number of orders, et cetera, et cetera. That I think personal touch can go a long way in enhancing that relationship that you already have. You have a physical sales rep relationship, but the way you automate that is you can customize your e-commerce so any of those 15 members that log in see their own experience. I think that can go a long way in terms of enhancing your brand with those customers.
Absolutely, and I also want to point out one of the things I recently saw, one of the audience here did, right? Like ASG Jurgens, I kind of like, I think there was also a question on how are you managing the social media and what platforms should we really be on. And I started following ASG Jurgens, and they kind of outlined the conferences they're going to be visiting. Mm-hmm. And hey, they're going to be in Houston like in 2 weeks or so on a conference. They in fact even posted on Facebook and LinkedIn that they're going to be here at the IDS conference. I thought that's kind of a good way because, hey, if somebody else is also following that, at least there's a touch point, and I know that they are coming there, and so I thought that was pretty neat actually.
Absolutely.
And you guys have any advice for people to manage product data? And that's actually a big need of the hour, right? Product information management, and with thousands or hundreds of thousands of SKUs, how do you manage that? Any thoughts?
We're actually going through a PIM project right now, so it really has been all hands on deck trying to consolidate all this information. You really need to work with your cross-functional teams. It includes IT, sales team. As far as content, we've actually started working with the product developers as well as our sales team to talk through when you created this product, what was kind of the idea behind it, and then from a sales perspective, we ask them what are the questions your customers are asking, so that way we can address those key concerns in the copy.
I'm really excited that you said all that. It's really, it's well done, and it actually is kind of the same thing that we talk about, this e-business team, right? Because it's not, just a marketing function. It's not just a sales function. It's a collaborative approach to perfecting your offering as it relates to content.
Awesome, and one more thing I also want to add is we have a great resource in this room. We have Raj from Content for Commerce. If in case you guys need any help with product content and everything, he's actually a great resource, and he runs Content for Commerce, just FYI.
Yeah, I manage, in addition to B2B, I also manage our PIM partnerships. So I'm also an evangelist for PIMs, and I'm seeing tremendous growth and expansion in that vertical. Everybody is trying to be PXM because they want to be product experience management system and not product information. But I think, kind of what we talked about, voice commerce, AI, AR, selling into omni-channel, right? So I think what I'm hearing a lot of businesses that are being blocked from being able to implement all these strategies, because as they're looking to publish their products in different languages, and they're looking to publish their products in different marketplaces, they're identifying that their product is not rich enough, and the schema doesn't support. It's not just about better images and better description, that's important, but they just don't have the right attributes that all these other external publishing systems need. So I see a lot of kind of, let's go back to the drawing board, and let's rebuild a foundation of product that we want to, product data and product attributes that we want to build, because down the road when we are doing shopping in our e-car, right, and while we're driving, we just have screens pop up. That's going to be, again, a brand new type of attributes, right? So I think the possibility is people are realizing that the product will be listed in many channels and many mediums, and the richer product that you can start building right now, the better you're set up for the future.
Okay, yeah, there's a question there.
Sorry. One of the biggest challenges that e-commerce has, like 20 years ago, and most of the company never speak about it, is the product return.
Is what, sorry?
The product return, when the customer return the product.
Yes, yep.
I think it's around 38%, the average B2C, sorry. So my question is like, do you have any advice to avoid the return of the product? Like, I don't know, like you just say, put a better data or put a better pictures of the product?
Generally with B2B, you have a particular offering that you provide to an organization. It gets down to that kind of functional relationship that you can establish with an organization so that you can, again, ensure that they're getting the correct offering, right? You may have 10,000 products like Tom over there, but you may have a customer that buys just these 300 products, and because you can differentiate the offering, that adds less risk with you as a vendor. I can't speak too much of it on the B2C side, but we don't see as much returns on the B2B side because our customers, who are the sellers and distributors, are presenting the offering that's been agreed upon, whatever that may have been.
I think returns, I mean, Karthik covered that in his slide, kind of going back to if you're getting a lot of customer support calls while somebody's shopping, that's a problem with the product they're looking at, doesn't have enough information. I also think returns are probably directly related to how well did they understand when they bought the product, what they were getting. And some of it is customer experience too, right? I mean, I know we all live in the Amazon world, and how quick and detailed you get a text message about what you just ordered, and that it's on the way, and all of that. And when you return, that process is streamlined, right? Reasons for why you're returning are being asked, and depending on your reason, sometimes you're charged the return label and sometimes you're not, right? So I think a lot of it is understanding and analyzing that data of what's driving. Are there just bad behavior going on where one user is returning a lot of products, or is there a trend that this type of products are being returned more? But we're certainly seeing pressure on the B2C side for not just match the return policies of Amazon, but match the shipping policies of Amazon, right? So I think Amazon has raised the bar and continuing to raise the bar, that everybody's trying to figure out, like, how do we do that? Now, one thing people don't realize is Amazon has a Prime fee, right? And when you're just a B2C business, and you ask your shopper to say, well, thank you for buying this product. By the way, here's your $99 a year membership fee. They'll bail, right? So there's a disadvantage for these individual B2C businesses to compete with Amazon, but they're trying to match that.
It's awesome. I think we have about 7 minutes left. So can you kind of talk about, maybe we'll start with you, Spenser, a problem in your business which you faced, or a challenge, and how you solved them?
Yeah, so one of our main challenges we faced on the B2B side is actually we sell through distributors. So we did not have a lot of communication with the end consumer. So what we did on our social channels is we actually did lead generation campaigns that we then passed along to our distributor network. We did the lead generation campaigns by job titles. So we targeted restaurant owners, chefs, and we served them to a landing page that offered them a free sample. We got so many leads from that campaign that we, as a marketing staff, actually had to start cold calling them back and qualify those leads. So social really is a great channel, even from a manufacturer's perspective. Even though we are not getting that quote-unquote end sale, we are helping our distributor partners with marketing our product.
That's great. And you guys want to talk about one of the challenges of your customers and how you actually solve them, or anything interesting?
I think we talk a lot about this e-business team because, and again, so I guess the caliber of the type of integrations that we do are very much kind of relationship driven, right? So some of the challenges that you face with kind of one-off or direct kind of B2B, I'm not in that space. So, I think that, some of the challenges, again, are I think, the educational component, training of the sales force as it relates to, these B2B distinct channels, and how they can have the most effective conversations to win those relationships with those organizations.
No, absolutely. Another question I want to ask you specifically, Brady, right? I know PunchOut is kind of integrated to e-commerce as well, and you integrate PunchOuts to e-commerce. What's actually stopping some of the distributors from doing PunchOuts? Or why is not every distributor doing it?
Yeah, they got to have the relationships, and they got to properly know how to navigate. I was mentioning to somebody else earlier, I have some great content, kind of buzzwords, things to kind of look out for, but you got to properly educate. And you got to understand your customers, right? And I asked somebody else, how many of you get purchase orders from your customers? Right? And what percentage of your if you have 1,000 customers or whatever the number is, what percentage of those customers are you actually getting POs from? Is it 85%? They're leveraging some form of procurement system, right? So now take the top 100 and actually maybe go out and proactively reach out to them and try to find out what procurement systems they are leveraging so that you can look at doing more integration rather than just getting willy-nilly POs.
Awesome. One last question. What's one thing you love about your job?
He gets to fly
Private jet?
private jets.
No,
That
was only for one distinct reason, and it wasn't a jet. It's a little prop over there. Really, it's bringing value, right? And I instill in our team that I don't ever want anybody to be siloed. I want everybody to try to look at continuous growth and grow together and collaborate together and be effective to not only the team, but those that we interact with. In any given touch point, when we're doing an integration, there might be upwards of 20 or 30 people on these chains. It's really important for people, right? And those people are the DCKAPs, right? The seller who's selling the product, the buyer, the seller's customer, the buyer's procurement team. Like, we have to bring value to all of them to make these processes easy. And I take great pride that our team, does all this heavy lifting and all this hard work so that we can collectively bring value to those that we serve. I'm not trying to sound just like some CEO. It's truth, right? It really is about bringing value. If you're not bringing value, you're not doing anything. You're just wasting time. So I think it's the value that we get to bring to the entire ecosystem, which includes everybody sitting in this room.
That's awesome. You give credit to your team as well, so that's amazing. And Sachin?
Yeah, you guys saw my slide with me wearing that T-shirt, trust your SE. I was definitely passionate and have been passionate about sales engineering because the role of sales engineer is to bring solutions to prospects, right? So when a B2B or B2C business would come to BigCommerce to evaluate if BigCommerce is the right fit, it was my job and my team's job to help them understand why it is or why it's not, right? As I've moved into business development, I'm really solving that same, living that same purpose through partnerships, right? So to me, it's not just fixing the problem or meeting the requirement for a specific customer, but for the entire industry, right? So as part of my B2B portfolio, signing up and working with Brady and PunchOut2Go and some of the other, bringing the right B2B solutions to our existing customers and potential customers is what I love doing, and I think I bring value to the company.
That's amazing, actually.
Bring in value.
Bring value, yeah.
Copying that.
And we learn a lot, actually. We learn a lot from you, so definitely appreciate that.
Yep.
So, Spenser.
At Oneida, we always joke that we're a 100-year-old startup. We have a very outdated way. We are a manufacturer, so we are really changing the way the organization thinks. Like Brady said earlier, we're transforming into an e-business. Before, we were a very siloed organization. So right now, we're in a very good spot to really transform this organization almost from the ground up.
Cool. I think that's it. Anybody has any final questions before we end up? I know there were questions.
Where are the
asked.
drinks?
Yeah. I think there's a question there. Yeah.
I'll kind of cover a couple quick points and close it down. I know we're really tight on time.
Sure.
But this day's been fantastic. And I want to kind of do a quick tie-in on everybody that brought something here. So Karthik, early on, you talked about like the low-effort user experience, and that's, to me, was a big take-home point. And we were chatting about Walmart earlier, And to me, there's a really low effort user experience out there where you place your order online and you drive your minivan up with the kids in the back and they deliver the groceries to the car. And I think that's just an example of how the low effort user experience can be. And we were talking briefly about Amazon, and you were asking about, okay, what are you guys doing out there within Amazon? And I wanted to touch and piggyback off on what Spencer was talking about. So we also do well with the smaller items rather than the larger items. And if you can negotiate a decent rate with a carrier that can meet the expectations of Amazon customers from a delivery timeline, we found that to be where we're at with the multi-channel at our organization. And Sachin, we love the BigCommerce platform. There was a lot of good points that you took, but the big thing is really just about embracing business to business. And we're happy to be with the BigCommerce platform, and that's a big takeaway that I had. So here's my question, and my question is actually for Brady, all right? And we're all kind of techie, so I'm going to ask my question, but the requirement that I have is somewhere in your answer, you can tie in some sort of segue to Game of Thrones. Because I think everybody in this room's got to be excited for the next
I don't have
season.
time to watch Game of Thrones.
No?
We already talked about headless commerce.
So here's my question. I know that there's an add-on to the BigCommerce platform, and it can generate like a heat map, right? So where on your site are people clicking? What are they not clicking? So that theme is a question that I have in your world. So if you could close your eyes and look at the global e-procurement world that you know so well, and you're looking at a global map, all right? And we're not talking 2019. I want you to think 10, 15 years in the future. I think you said you'd be about 34? 37, yeah. And so my question is really, if you could have a heat map of the e-procurement globally, and you see places like New York City or LA, they're generating millions of dollars. Where are we going to be in 10 years from an e-procurement global standpoint? What do you see?
So I look at it from a global perspective about daily. I actually have this really cool app. It's called Map Anything. It ties into our Salesforce, right? Again, modular stuff. And we also pay a lot of attention to our Google Analytics and Pardot and all the tools. The North America leads the e-procurement space as related to organizations adopting these technologies. Europe is right behind, right? So if I had to chunk up the 100% of procurement that's happening in the world today, I would say 50% North America, 30% Europe, 20% APAC for mafia type reasons and whatever the case may be in other countries. I think that not 10 years from now, but I think that next year, or the next 2 to 3 years, Europe will be, and Australia, I think it's all going to kind of be neck and neck. The Australian market's growing rapidly. Asian market's not growing as rapidly as it relates to procurement, but there's a lot of growth mechanisms in place that are feeding that, and it will, right? So I think they'll be the last to adopt. But we have customers in 45 countries, and we get leads inbound to us, all day, every day, and we measure and try to figure out who's growing, where they're growing, and this is related to procurement as well as commerce technologies, right? Because we sit in this agnostic space, so always analyzing the data. As it relates to North America, obviously Northeast, massive. Midwest is pretty massive as well. Southeast, not a lot in the desert, right? But then the whole West Coast is pretty strong. But hopefully that answers your question. Or not. Hopefully it does, right?
We have one more question back there.
I can't, I'm not that techie. No, my question is probably because I'm from the industrial side of things, is the e-commerce is, anybody can get a website, anybody can get e-commerce from a lot of places, different places, but my question to you is, the hardest thing for distributors to get today is the data. And one thing is data that is cleansed and that they can put and use on their site. How are you acquiring that information? And I know you say you have this many SKUs, and people can have up to 1 million SKUs, but are those SKUs going to benefit those distributors in all those different aspects of the business? These guys being in one, somebody else being in another. How are you guys going to be able to get that data, or is that going to be left up to the distributor to get that?
Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
so for us, we do a lot in our sales pitches. It's just very high level. Here's the consumer that purchased this item. Here is the sales velocity we received on that, and here's the price point. We actually do a lot of testing on price point on where we see it will work with the end consumer. So we really don't, unfortunately, we do not have a whole lot of data, but it's really from a high level sales perspective that we pitch to our manufacturer or distributor partners what works well on the site.
Do you want to add anything to that? Or?
I mean, I think it's a really complex question, right? And not knowing, I guess, what the distributor network of yours looks like, and kind of all the nuances. So we work with some larger global manufacturers as well that do have groups of distributors that ride along, in that kind of network, all using various types of technologies with kind of various business strategies. So that's probably a nice sit down. Have plenty of cocktails type of conversation.
Like now.
Yeah, maybe one more thing I just want to add to that is maybe leverage your partnerships, because there are like a lot of other people doing things really well, and what can you leverage from them in terms of product data, and get the feeds from them and hire third-party companies to manage that. Yeah. Cool, I think we are out of time, and I will first want to thank the panelists. Thanks Spenser, thanks Sachin, and thanks
Thank you for
Brady
having us.
for coming here. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank everyone here in the audience for coming here and making this event a big success. We weren't expecting this great turnout, and crowds actually staying here through the end. That's really amazing. And it's very motivating, and thanks for your feedback as well. We learned so much, and I hope you also learned a lot. Thank you again for coming to IDS 2019, and we'll be letting you know when we're going to do 2020 soon. Thank you.